The film begins with 4 IRA agents, Dorian, Curtis, Seamus, and Conan, planning to assassinate 2 enemies. As they set up a bomb, Dorian notices children near the car. She tries to warn them, but it's too late, and the explosion claims innocent lives. Dorian and her team escape to Glencomsil, destroying the welcome sign on their way. The scene shifts to Finbar and Officer Vinny practicing shooting. After losing a bet to Finbar, Vinny heads to investigate the damaged sign. He examines the wreckage, deduces a burgundy-colored car hit it, and hopes to catch the culprit soon. After Vinny drops him off, Finbar meets his neighbor, Rita, who loves gardening but is caring for her sick husband. She invites Finbar to dinner, but he declines, asking about her husband instead. Later, Finbar notices a leaf on his car and, upon checking inside, finds a photo of a man named Bart McGinnis. Next, Finbar is seen at a bar, listening to Bart's speech, hinting at Finbar's dark profession. Moments later, Finbar stops his car in a remote area and opens the trunk, revealing he's captured Bart. He forces Bart to dig a hole. Once done, Finbar gives him 1 minute to speak. Bart delivers a reality check, stating he's also killed many people and that Finbar will meet the same fate. Bart asks him to do something before he ends up in hole. The realization shakes Finbar, but he shoots Bart anyway. Finbar then visits his employer, Robert, where he meets his young colleague, Kevin. Finbar expresses his desire to quit, confessing he's made too many poor decisions since his wife's passing. He shares his wish to be more than a killer and dreams of taking up gardening. Robert eventually agrees. Relieved, Finbar returns home and begins spending his days in contentment. He cleans his lawn, catching Rita's attention. Days later, he joins Rita for dinner, enjoying her company. During their light-hearted conversation, Rita mentions his late wife, Margaret, which saddens Finbar. He reminisces about happier times, but Rita has to leave to tend to her husband. On his way back, Finbar meets a young girl named Moya, fishing for dinner. He strikes up a conversation, but she accidentally drops her grub into the lake. Moya grows frightened. Noticing her fear, Finbar spots bruises on her neck, but she quickly runs off. This short and shocking incident leads him to unforeseen circumstances. How will he cope with the upcoming threats? Make sure to watch till the end to find the answers. That evening, Finbar visits the bar and meets Moya's mother, Sinead. He tells her about the grub and admits it was his fault. Sinead is stunned, but Finbar urges her to be kind to Moya. Later, Finbar steps outside and sees Moya attempting to flee town on horseback. He stops her, joking that she should wait until morning because monsters come out at night. He escorts her back to her airstream, where he meets Moya's uncle, Curtis. Curtis is rude, and Finbar senses he's the source of Moya's distress. Curtis takes the grub to his friends, who are hiding in the town. Connor is furious to find only apples, but Dorian intervenes and calms him. She instructs her brother to focus on his task. The next morning, Finbar arrives at Sinead's place with supplies and notices Moya sitting alone. As he approaches, she hides something in her hands. Finbar insists she show him, and Moya hands him a bullet marked with a cross. Realizing Moya is being mistreated, Finbar questions her, but she stays silent. Suddenly, Curtis arrives, causing Moya to run inside. Curtis argues with Finbar, but Sinead hands him supplies and tells him to leave. Finbar meets Robert and requests that Kevin be assigned to kill Curtis. Robert hesitates, fearing Curtis might be connected to the IRA and unwilling to provoke them. Finbar tails Curtis and offers him a ride back to Sinead's. He distracts Curtis with conversation, asking him to fetch cigarettes, giving him a chance to change the route. Eventually, Finbar stops the car and shows Curtis his gun. When Curtis reaches for it, Finbar knocks him out. He takes him to a remote spot, but as he opens the trunk, Curtis attacks and tries to flee. Finbar shoots him in the leg. Curtis demands to know why, and Finbar reveals it's for Moya. He aims for the final shot, but the gun jams. Curtis lunges at him, only for Kevin to shoot him dead. Kevin explains he was following Robert's orders to watch Finbar. Finbar then makes Kevin bury the body since he was the one who killed Curtis. Later, they're at Sinead's bar when she offers Finbar a free drink. Kevin demands one too, but Sinead dismisses him. Kevin laughs and jokes, recalling how he once killed a woman. Finbar is shocked, as he's never killed a woman himself. He warns Kevin never to mock someone's final moments, but Kevin taunts him, asking how many people he's killed, provoking Finbar to punch him. The next day, Dorian grows anxious about Curtis. Seamus informs her that Connor plans to escape to France to start anew. Dorian confronts Connor, insisting they won't leave without finding Curtis. She claims to be the mastermind, but Connor reveals that Dorian and Curtis have been identified by the government. Undeterred, Dorian sets out to find Curtis. Grabbing her gun, she notices a bullet is missing. She visits Sinead, demanding to know Curtis's whereabouts, but Sinead denies any knowledge. Moya is relieved, while Sinead warns Dorian about the consequences, citing the news. Enraged, Dorian grabs Sinead's neck, declaring she's fighting for their freedom and demands respect before storming off. Later, Dorian contacts an ally in Belfast, who confirms Curtis hasn't returned. She then demands to get something about Curtis, and the man directs her to Robert. That night, Robert notices a suspicious car outside his house. Dwarian confronts him, asking about Curtis. Robert feigns ignorance, but Dwarian steps on a bullet, the missing one from her gun. She loads it, and Robert, realizing he's cornered, admits Finbar might have killed Curtis. When Robert refuses to reveal Finbar's location and reaches for his gun, Dwarian shoots him. She searches his documents as Robert's mother calls out. Dwarian calmly tells her she's killed Robert and doesn't want to harm her, forcing the mother to retreat to her room. Kevin informs Finbar about Robert's death, and they rush to Robert's house. Finbar speaks with Robert's mother, who reveals a woman looking for someone named Curtis killed Robert. Finbar pieces everything together. Meanwhile, Dwarian arrives in town and asks Seamus to gather information about Finbar. Seamus poses as Finbar's nephew and questions the shopkeeper, obtaining Finbar's address. As Seamus leaves, he runs into Vinny, who grows suspicious when the shopkeeper introduces Seamus as Finbar's nephew. After clearing evidence at Robert's house, Finbar and Kevin return to town. Finbar spots someone at his house and hides. Inside, Dwarian and her associates search Finbar's home. Finbar and Kevin watch from a distance. While waiting, Kevin shares how a bar fight led to his first encounter with Robert. He paid Robert $30,000 to kill a man, marking the start of his dark career. Moved, Finbar opens up about his past as a war soldier. He claims to have left his violent history behind, but after returning from war, he learned of his wife's death, which shattered what little remained of him. Dwarian and her associates spend the night waiting for Finbar. In the morning, aware that Finbar is watching, Dwarian destroys his car, catching Rita's attention. As Dwarian approaches Rita and speaks disrespectfully, Kevin aims to shoot her, but Finbar stops him. Dwarian threatens Rita and leaves after punching her as a warning. After Dwarian and her group depart, Finbar rescues Rita, takes her inside, and arranges for a doctor. Later, Finbar visits Kevin's place, where a casual conversation reveals Kevin's dream of moving to California and recording his own music album. Finbar is moved by Kevin's aspirations and notices a piece of burnt newspaper. He goes to town, buys a newspaper, and reads about Dwarian and her friend's actions in Belfast. Suddenly, Vinny arrives and asks about his nephew. Finbar understands and replies that Kevin is a good kid, though he doesn't see him often. Vinny then drops Finbar at Sinead's place before Finbar heads to where Dwarian and her team have been hiding. He searches the area and finds the explosives they've been preparing. Finbar goes to the football field, where he spots Dwarian with her friends. As she leaves, Finbar follows her and waits outside the restroom. She notices him and realizes he's the Finbar she's been hunting. Finbar suggests they stop here, as they both lost friends. He tells her about Curtis's behavior with Moya, but she refuses to back down. Finbar proposes meeting at the field that night so he can bring her the man who killed her brother. Dwarian doesn't believe him and insists on meeting at the local bar instead. Kevin sees Finbar again, and Finbar warns him about the impending conflict. Finbar claims he'll be at the bar so that anyone seeking revenge for Dwarian's death will come for him, not the town. In the evening, Finbar arrives outside the bar with Kevin and outlines his plan. Kevin insists on helping, but Finbar hands him money, instructing him to give part of it to Robert's mother and use the rest to start a new life in California. Touched by Finbar's gesture, Kevin reluctantly agrees and leaves. Finbar enters the bar and waits when Vinny catches up to him, asking for a chat. Outside, Dwarian arrives with her friends and explains her plan. She'll go in first, followed by Connor with a bomb in a briefcase, while Seamus keeps the car running. Inside, Vinny questions Finbar about the book he's reading, and Finbar mentions the detective in the story is clever, reminding him of Vinny. Vinny then asks about his nephew and offers help if he's in trouble, but Finbar declines. Finbar notices Dwarian entering the bar but then spots Moya inside. He pulls her aside and orders her to leave immediately. Dwarian stands with Sinead when Finbar approaches her. Outside, Vinny notices a scratched car with Seamus inside and grows suspicious, heading back in. He sees Connor sitting with a briefcase and sits beside him. Dwarian demands the man who killed Curtis, and before Finbar can take the blame, Kevin arrives, flirting with her. When he admits to killing Curtis, Dwarian shoots him. As Connor tries to fire, Finbar shoots him down. Connor turns to find his briefcase missing. Vinny tries to escape with the case, but Seamus spots and knocks him out. Meanwhile, Dwarian aims at Finbar, but Kevin shoots her. Outside, Seamus hears gunfire and prepares to throw the bomb. As he reaches the door after starting the timer, Finbar shoots him, killing him in the explosion. Finbar looks at Kevin, who tells him his money is in the car. Suddenly, Dwarian shoots Kevin in the head and leaves the bar. Finbar tries to follow her, but Connor attacks again. Finbar fights back and kills Connor. Finbar heads outside, and Dwarian opens fire but runs out of bullets. Finbar spots a shotgun in her car and chases her, but Vinny stops him. Finbar stares helplessly at Vinny and walks away. Dwarian barely reaches the church when Finbar joins her. He sits beside her, and Dwarian asks him to shoot her, but Finbar encourages her to make peace. She closes her eyes, saying her brother is alone, and Finbar promises to reunite her with him after she dies. Eventually, Dwarian passes away peacefully, and true to his word, Finbar buries her next to Curtis. The next day, Finbar prepares to leave town when he meets Rita. He tries to return her gardening guide, but Rita insists he keep it, as it might help him in the future. Meanwhile, Vinny fixes the welcome sign and finds a gift in his car. Opening it, he discovers Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, a final gift from Finbar, and the film ends.